Like mom in the grocery store back in the day, is it a want or is it a need? Wide receiver help a constant need in Baltimore, and the Ravens going with a player with some big-time potential in round 4, Tez Walker out of UNC. In 8 games last season for the Tar Heels, Walker had 41 catches for just shy of 700 yards and 7 touchdowns. Back in studio with two men always in high demand. Wilson, Rick Spielman here to dive into our last division, and we're going to start right there with the Ravens. It always feels like they're a little piece away. Total sum of this group, does that fill those needs to the point where you're looking at a true contender again in the Ravens? 100%.
This is an A all day for me, Rick. And Eric DeCosta continues to follow in the footsteps of Ozzie Newsome and just crush draft after draft. Nate Wiggins feels like a Raven. He's a little on the light side at 185. I don't even think he weighed that at the combine. But he is long, he is fast, and he can cover. Rosengarten protected the right side for Michael Penix Jr., which is his blind side, obviously. Adisa Isaac played opposite Chop Robinson. He is a juiced-up edge rusher who needs to get a little stronger at the point, but you can see the athleticism there. And then the athleticism continues with the next pick, Rick, with Tez Walker, who ran in the 4.3s. He's every bit of 6'2". He's not a natural catcher of the football, so that's something he needs to work on, but you just run go routes and let Lamar Jackson see if he can throw the ball farther than you can run.
Yeah, no, I thought, again, this is a very consistent Eric DeCosta's draft. Every time they follow their board, they're going to take the best players available, and it seems like the board falls to them every year where they also fill a need. Did they have a need at corner? Yes. Well, look, there's Nate Wiggins. We have a need at right tackle. We traded away Morgan. What? Look, there's Roger Rosengarten.
My goodness.
We need an edge rusher? No way. There's Adisa Isaac there. So it's just like every year. It's amazing to watch how the board falls to them, and they get good football players, and that's why they're winning year in and year out. Because they only spent on Derrick Henry. That was the only free agent they spent on this year. They're always going to build through the draft. This was another successful draft to build.
Ryan, give me that again. Who'd you say feels like a Raven?
Nate Wiggins, the very first pick.
Nate Wiggins feels like a Raven. Thankfully, and I take great pride in this, our friend Bryant McFadden once said, "I host like a Steeler." I don't know if that's a I don't know if that's a compliment or not.
It's 100% a compliment.
I'll play for Mike Tomlin any day of the week.
Yes, sir.
This was a draft that had clear direction. Protect Russell Wilson and try and win more football games up front. Such an issue for the Steelers these past seasons, whether pass blocking or run blocking. They were one of the worst in the NFL. They addressed that right off the top here in this draft.
Right, and to continue the Mike Tomlin / Joe Musso connection, I'll give you my favorite Mike Tomlinism.
Okay.
We're not asking for much, Joe. Just all you got.
All right.
And that's how
you got it.
That's how you run through a wall. A+ for the Mike Tomlinism. Right. A+ to the Steelers. Torrey Fautanu, he's going to run through a wall for you. Zach Frazier, same there. So the offensive line is already immeasurably better. You're adding, what's the math there? 40% improvement on the offensive line in terms of players. Roman Wilson fills that need. You circle back with Peyton Wilson on the other side. And Rick, we talked about Mason McCormick. One of our favorite matchups was watching Christian Boyd out of Northern Iowa, go up against Mason McCormick out of South Dakota State, and that was a stalemate. And now he's a part of the Steelers again. More depth along that offensive line.
I don't think it's going to be hard to predict what type of offense that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to run. So, offensive lineman, offensive lineman, offensive lineman. They are going to run the ball. And I was looking down through here, Joe. If you look at all their draft picks, and all of a sudden we look at runs all the time. Corner runs, D-tackle runs. We saw a running back run. Well, this was a Wilson run. There was Roman Wilson, Peyton Wilson, and then with the 6th pick, it was Ryan Watts. So
yeah,
close.
We were close.
We were close.
Keep that phone close, though, because
you never know. Did they call you as a college free agent?
We're going to bring you in camp. We really like your upside, Ryan, but we can't make you any promises. We want you to come in and compete.
We're not asking for much. Just all you got.
Just all you got. These guys have given us all they have. 2 more teams to get to. The Bengals, our next one. A bevy of picks, volume again here in the way that they approached it. When you have this many picks, you can really spray the board. That's sort of what it looked like here, but off the top, a tackle to protect the oft-injured Joe Burrow. What did you grade out here in Cincinnati?
B+.
Okay.
And they had needs, and they filled those needs. I had talked to a source prior to the draft, and I asked if Brock Bowers was there or if Amarius Mims is there, what's the direction you're going? Because Brock Bowers had been a popular choice for Cincinnati. He did not follow to that point. They said Amarius Mims. That's who they get. They get help along the defensive line, which they needed to do. Jermaine Burton would have gone much higher. He had some off-field issues. He is a downfield threat consistently. And they keep going to the tight end well here too, Rick. Rick. So Eric All, I didn't love him quite as much as he was drafted here. He had some injury concerns, but I absolutely love Tanner McLaughlin. We talked about him. Also had an injury, which is why he fell. But I think he has a chance to be a contributor. Both those guys do early on with Joe Burrow.
Yeah, and the biggest need, besides the offensive tackle, was the defensive line and the defensive tackle position. And Chris Jenkins, to me, is as solid and as steady as you're going to get. He is very good against the run. He's very good rushing the passer. He's not exceptional in one area, but he's going to help you win games. And then McKinley Jackson, we saw him down at the Senior Bowl. He is probably Trevante Sweat light, maybe 10 pounds light. So just another big nose tackle that's going to be a two-down run stuff and nose tackle for them.
All right, we got the Browns to round things out here. Notably, in the third round, pick 21, Zach Zender, the guard out of Michigan, injured late last season. This was a Michigan draft. I mean, there's no surprise to this. The national champions all over the board, including pick number 85 there, the interior lineman going to Cleveland. Only one pick prior for Cleveland, 54. Defensive line help. Obviously addressing the trenches first and foremost here. What'd you make of the draft strategy, Ryan?
I love the draft strategy in terms of addressing needs. I gave them a B- in part because they had fewer picks than the other teams in that division. I thought the other teams did a better job of addressing more needs. Now, the Browns defense just got a whole lot better with Michael Hall Jr., and they were already in a good place under Jim Schwartz. He is incredibly twitched up. You see there, he's a little heavier than 280, I think, but not much. And the issue is he sometimes, as Rick will tell you, gets too high in his pad level, but I think he is twitchy and he can shoot gaps. Jamari Thrash adds something as a wide receiver. I like Nathaniel Watson a little bit as a linebacker, and I'll be interested to see how we see him used at the next level with Jim Schwartz. But just the lack of picks. And the other thing it comes back to for me, Rick, is that you still have to hit with Deshaun Watson because that's one of the reasons you don't have these picks. So that also has to factor into the equation.
Yeah, they built this a little differently. They don't have the draft capital that they had in the past when Sashi Brown was running it. They had 150 picks every year. But they address it by trading Jerry Jeudy. And again, you're correct. Deshaun Watson has to come through, but this is a pretty complete roster right now. So all these guys are kind of plug-and-play rookies that they want to develop and hopefully eventually play. I really like the Michael Hall Jr. I think he's going to give them some inline pass rush. If you look at their defensive tackles, and I was looking at this, you have Tomlinson, 30. Shelby Harris, 33. Quentin Johnson, 30s. So they got 3 defensive tackles that are older veterans, and to put youth in there like Michael Hall Jr. is definitely going to start helping rebuild and replenish that defensive line as these guys age out.
32 up, 32 down, a pair of 1-1s sitting next to me right here. The hard work, it's always appreciated, fellas. Ryan Wilson, Rick Spielman, great work as always as we take a look at the odds to win the AFC North. Some think anybody's division. Disrespect to the Steelers here? Ryan Wilson, a word?
Grossly disrespectful.
Disrespect. They're going to run the ball. Plus 750, the Browns 5-1 money. Bengals and Ravens, Vegas expecting to battle it deep into the season for this divisional title.